and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel, heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell, can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell, can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell, can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome indeed. Appreciate you being with us for today's episode. It's a big one. We got a couple of the biggest heavy hitters in Washington, D.C. today. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, with us this morning. We have a lot of things to talk about that's going on in both of those committees, as well as just in the Congress bigger picture. That'll be at the top of the next hour at 8 o'clock. I'm very much looking forward to that chat. It's been a bit since I've had a full one-on-one with Congressman Jim Jordan. Then also in the 8 o'clock hour, we get Senator Jon Husted, who is in one of the biggest fights so that we can maintain control of the Congress and of the Senate in particular in November, because he's fighting against Sherrod Brown. We fired Sherrod Brown's ass once, and apparently it didn't take because he thinks he can come back again. No, usually when people get fired, they don't get rehired. We're not bringing him back to the Senate. Jon Husted and I are going to talk about a lot of important issues, not specifically about Sherrod Brown, although I will talk about Sherrod Brown's socialism, even if Senator Husted cannot. But we will have a lot to discuss with Senator Husted as well. So that's in the 8 o'clock hour, back to back. You saw the little logo up there, didn't you? Or the graphic that I put up together for today. It's kind of funny. Obviously, we do use AI for these graphics. And I had a picture of me with Jon Husted and a picture of me with Jim Jordan. And I put them both up there. And I said, make it look like all three of us are together. And boom, they did a pretty decent job, I suppose. Never know what you're going to get with AI. It's like that freaking Forrest Gump box of chocolate. I never know if it's going to, if it's going to look like us or if it's going to look even similar or just horrible. That one's not too bad, actually. Well, we will discuss Congressman Jordan and Senator Husted. We will indeed discuss socialism and the ongoing rot. We had a big moment yesterday. Kind of a temporary, temporary setback for the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, because they had another one running for a primary race in Arizona last night. They lost. That individual did. So that's a moment, but it's just a moment. It's just a blip on the radar screen, given the massive amount of victories that the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, aka just the Communist Party of the United States. That's what the Democrats are. They become just the Communist Party of the United States. But the wins that they have gotten over the course of this primary season have obviously been well documented, and we have discussed many, many times. We're going to discuss them a little bit again today. Not the individual candidates this time, but the mission of the DSA. They put this out last week. Their Workers Deserve More platform. This is their 2026 election platform and their plans going forward. It's scary. Being 100% honest, it's scary. And the idea that there is a major American party, one of our two, that refuses to step up and stand up against this. And I mean to fight against it hard. They're allowing themselves, because they're so afraid talking about Democrat members of Congress and Democrat kingmakers. They're so afraid of, what will happen because of the sudden rush of popularity that socialists and communists have gotten. It's like honestly, it's probably the biggest since the 50s, 60s. The party is so afraid to cross this new movement of radicalism, to just bring their traditional Democrat progressivism, traditional Democrat liberalism to the front. They're terrified to cross them. And so that's why they kind of are just, going along. It's why John Fetterman, who's one of the only Democrats in Congress, either side, either House or Senate, to actually have the guts to step up and speak up and say, these people are nuts. Bernie Sanders is a lunatic. AOC, Graham Plattner was a lunatic. All of these socialists and communists, there's just not enough pushback. People like Fetterman, he's the outlier. The rest of them are all just like, all right, yay, that's our side, because we're far closer to being socialists. Talking about just the mainstream Democrats, they're so much closer to being socialists than they are to capitalists. It's just the reality of it. So it's a big deal, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in this first half hour at 7:30, though. So in about 20 minutes, we're going to talk once again to Adam Miller. He's the strategic director for AFP Ohio. I'm sorry, not AFP. Normally we do our AFP hit on Wednesdays, but Donovan O'Neill is traveling, and he has asked their colleagues and our friends at CVA, Concerned Veterans for America. Adam Miller's the strategic director of CVA, to join us this morning. That'll be at about 7:30, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Take Care of American Veterans Act, one that was shockingly stopped on the House floor a week ago not on the House floor, stopped from getting to the House floor for a full vote. And it was quite shocking. And only 3 Republicans voted with every Democrat to stop this from being brought for a vote. One of the three was Ohio's own Max Miller. 3 out of all of the 215 or whatever it is, Republicans in the Senate, or 218, or in the House, one of the 3 Republicans was Max Miller from Ohio, Ohio 7, in fact. So it's a very disappointing development last week. So we're going to talk to Adam Miller about where that stands right now. He's going to debunk some of the myths about the Taking Care of Americans Veterans Act. So there you go. I've got Adam Miller coming up. I've got Jim Jordan coming up, and I've got Jon Husted coming up this morning. So it's a really, really packed with great interviews. I think they're going to be great interviews this morning. So hopefully you'll be able to react to those. Welcome to those who are in the chat. If you were watching live, don't forget to hit that thumbs up for me. Looks just like this. Hit that thumbs up, hit that notification button. Make sure you share the channel with everybody that you can. And if you're watching this on replay, same story. Hit the thumbs up, tell them you like it anyway, and make sure you share this with other people. So there are so many things to get into today. This is not a top priority, but it was just so cool. I want to share it anyway, if you don't mind. Did you see this from the Chicago Cubs game from a couple of days ago? the national anthem is playing. And see this little punk that you should be able to see my cursor over there, right? Yeah, see this little punk? He stayed seated for the national anthem. There's a dad back here, not his dad. That's not his kid. But there's just a dad who could not take it anymore, watching the disrespect of this young generation of I don't even know what you want to call them. I don't want to call them un-American, but maybe just uninformed, uneducated, not being properly raised with respect for the flag, the anthem, the country, and so forth. Watch what everybody's dad does here. And that's the best way to say that, because it's kind of what I would do. This is what every dad USA would have done. Can we see it again? Again. Let's see if I can put it on loop here. It's not even his kid, but look at the reaction. That's not his dad. He just paintbrushed him, just the back of the head paintbrush slap. And the kid just looked and said, okay, I'll stand up. I don't want to take another. Thank you, sir. I have enough. This just has gone viral, this moment. And I will tell you, I don't know anything about the guy. I don't know anything about his politics. I don't know if anybody's tracked him down yet. I promise you, everybody in America is going to try to get an interview with that dad. We're calling him a dad because look at him. He's wearing cargo shorts. Welcome to the club. He just looks like every dad USA, right? And it's what we do, by the way. It's what we do. So he just looks like Pops, getting ready for the game, watching the anthem being performed, looks down, sees this punk, and cargo shorted dad just says, get up, stand up. Then he whispers something to him we can't hear, which is probably about show a little respect and pride for the country, for yourself, for the flag, for the anthem. And then kid wouldn't stand up. And so the paintbrush, boom, and boom, the guy got up. That's what it is. Look, why has this gone viral? And if you read the comments on X or really anybody else's, I mean, I don't have them posted here or because I wanted to zoom in I wanted to zoom in the video. I'm just looking at some of the comments now. If kids' parents won't teach him, I guess some Cubs fan will. That's what reminders are for. He should stand. Oh, some people pushing back on this particular. This is so viral. You can pick any number of places in terms of accounts to view it on. I viewed it on Buzz Patterson's because I love Buzz Patterson. He's a former. He actually carried the nuclear football for the Clinton administration. I did a long form interview with him about a year and a half ago. Great guy. Takes no BS from anybody. And in fact, his commentary on it is, quote, a Cubs fan is pissed when another fan won't stand up for the anthem. Beautiful. He stands up. Bitch. That's sorry. Just I'm reading the actual quote from Buzz, but I'm reading some of the lefties underneath it too. You don't smack another person because you think your beliefs are more important. Luckily, he wasn't an alpha male because that old man would be in a comma. That's right. Comma. They spelled it C-O-M-M-A. Can't even spell coma correctly to make his ridiculous point. And it's not about beliefs. It is about pride in the country. Oh, there's another one. That old piece of crap should thank that guy for not punching him in the face, which he should have, in my opinion. See, this is why the overwhelming majority of Americans responding to that video, this is why they have, backed every dad USA. Because there are far too many punk-ass Gen Zers like that, these people commenting, and that kid who haven't been raised, honestly, to love the country, to respect the country, to be allegiant to the country. Hell, when 99% of the schools don't even pledge allegiance anymore, what do you get? They don't pledge allegiance. They don't respect the anthem. It started, 10 years ago-ish, 2015, 2016. When did that piece of crap, Colin Kaepernick, start kneeling during the national anthem to protest what he thought was racial inequality or social justice or some other BS. I want to say it was around 2016 or so. I could be off. 2015, 2016. It's been 10, 11 years. I don't know. Maybe right before Trump came in. Maybe 2017. I got to look it up. Doesn't matter. But the point is, it's been a while. And that's what kind of generated in a lot of younger people who don't have patriot parents, who don't have parents who have some pride in the country, and they raise their kids to be little slack asses like that punk. And it took a real dad, probably the only dad that idiot has in his life, to slap a little bit of attention into him. And he did. He woke him up. Kids stood up. And where it goes from there where it went from there is anybody's guess. But that just had to be done. Because the young punks in this country who are so influenced by lunatics, radical leftists all over social media and all over, their educational systems. It's why we continue to say homeschool your kids, homeschool your kids, homeschool your kids. If you can't get them into a good charter school or a good parochial school that isn't woke, and not all of the parochial schools, by the way, fit that bill. Many of the Catholic schools and parochial schools are woke as can be, including some of the largest ones right here in Northeast Ohio. So I'm just being real about that. But between the social media influencers, congressional Democrat representatives, those who are embracing the socialist ideology, they don't push American pride. They don't push American support of the flag, the anthem, the pledge, and so on and so forth. Just the opposite. In fact, you've got lunatics like this. I wasn't going to do this one, but let me hit you up with this one real quick. Recognize this guy? This is Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is like one of the most popular leftist, progressive, socialist, communist, and I'm putting all of those together. I skipped Marxist because that's what they are. Don't let the tiny little slivers of separation what's the word I'm looking for? Don't let this ruin the narrative. Okay, there is a hairline's different. I mean, just a hair's width of difference between Marxism, communism, and socialism and leftism. It's all fruit of the same tree, the poisonous tree. And people like Hassan Piker is one of those pushing it and promoting it. He's the one who was platforming Graham Plattner. He is one of the guys platforming, what's his name, in Michigan. All of the Democratic socialists we're talking about. He hates America, says 9/11 was deserved, literally wants to erase capitalism in this country. Anyway, this is an example of what we're talking about when I talked about the DSA a few moments ago. Listen to this lunatic.
I got stopped by a cop.
This is who people like that punk at the Cubs game. This is the kind of person that those young people listen to. This is the kind of person that they're influenced by.
I got stopped by a cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, which I never would and never will. Mao Zedong is a one of the great leaders of this world. Okay, a man who changed the entire universe.
Mao Zedong killed upwards of 70 million people. Mao killed over 70 million people. That's what Mao's Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution in China did. That's not theory. That's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. Mao did what socialists and communists do. They kill. Now, does that mean they outright executed 70 million Chinese people? No, not by bringing them all to the chamber or mass executions the way the Nazis did in the Holocaust. No, they did that with plenty. Tortured and executed plenty of dissidents and anybody who dared not praise dear leader. Same thing that's going on today in North Korea with the Kim dynasty. This is what socialism and communism brings, but specifically by way of starvation. Mao starved over 70 million people to death. And that's exactly what the Democrat Party in the United States today wants. Now, will they advertised that on their DSA platform that they released last week, the national program, Workers Deserve More. They released this last Tuesday, and it's got a full collection of the proposals. It's not just a collection of welfare proposals either. It is radicalism on top of radicalism. It's the kind of thing that Mao built, and that the Bolsheviks did before that, and that Stalin did. That's why we tell everybody over 100 million people were murdered by way of famine, forced starvation, as well as actual state executions by the likes of the most deranged socialist and communist regimes in recent, if not all, of world history. Whether it's the Khmer Rouge, whether it was the Soviets, whether it was Mao and the Chinese, whether it was Castro's Cuba, Venezuela under Chavez and Maduro. Again, we talk about starvation. People think we're kidding. This is what collectivism brings. When the central government says you can't own anything, it all belongs to us, but don't worry, we will take care of you. We will dole it out. When they run out of food to dole out, everybody starves. It has been tried and done again and again. Anyway, the DSA platform, which I'm going to do an entire show on probably next week, but the DSA platform includes the most radical stuff. Abolish the United States Senate. And I hate even giving them the respect of calling them what they are, the DSA, what they call themselves, the Democratic Socialists of America. Again, we'll continue to repeat the meme in word form. You've probably seen the meme online. Socialism is a pile of dog crap. Democratic socialism is dog crap with some candied sprinkles on top. It's still a pile of dog crap. That's what socialism, democratic socialism is. Read it as socialism, which you should read as communism. Abolish the Senate. Replace the two-party system with a multi-party system using proportional representation, including ranked choice voting in all elections. There will be no electoral college. Eliminate the presidency. No president. No executive. Replace the Supreme Court with the judiciary selected by and subordinate to Congress. The Congress, the House, shall be massively expanded. Publicly financing elections while eliminating lobbyists and Citizens United. Full voting rights to all U.S. residents, not citizens, residents, including all of those who come here illegally. But of course, there will be no such thing as illegally, because open borders will prevail and anybody will be able to come and go as they please, and then come in from a communist country, come in from China, come in from Cuba, come in from wherever, and cast votes and then leave again. Get rid of all prisons. All prisons shall be eliminated. Police shall be abolished. Border security shall be abolished. Could they do any of those things? Not without probably a massive civil war, because they can't do any of these things without changing the Constitution. Let me rephrase. They can't do any of these things without feeding the Constitution through a paper shredder, and then feeding that paper shredder through a bigger paper shredder. They'd have to destroy it forever. And yet they want you in 3 months to vote for them. The Democrat Party wants that. Now, all of them don't, but they can't say so out loud because they're afraid they're going to get run over by the speeding locomotive that is socialism in the United States. By the Mamdanis, the Chevaliers, the Valdezes, the Wilsons, all of these, Kairos in Colorado and Denver just last week. All of these socialists winning, they're just taking over the party. And if they take over the party and that party wins, well, then they take over the government. You understand how serious this is? And that's why I'm going to talk to Jim Jordan in a half an hour, and we're going to talk about what can be done to slow this massive socialist takeover, to slow it down. What can be done to combat it? And then we're going to talk to Senator Jon Husted. We're going to talk to him about that too. A few other things as well, policy things related to the midterms and so forth. But what is it going to take? And do Americans really, truly understand the level of the threat, the gravity of the threat? I would submit to you that no, they do not. They do not understand that yet. So we have a lot to discuss with, like I said, two prominent members of the conservative Congress, both houses. We're going to talk to Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jordan, and then Senator Husted, who is fighting to keep and get into a full term. All right, before we do anything else, I want to take a short time out and thank my friend Mark King for being a massive, massive supporter of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, and moreover, for his foundational support of this program and his support for senior citizens. Nearly 40 years, for nearly 40 years, he has been helping people with their Medicare. And this is how he does it.
If you're on Medicare and ever find yourself confused by your coverage, you're not alone. Medicare can be complicated, and the wrong information or no information at all can cost you time, money, and peace of mind. Hey, it's Bob France. For a Medicare professional I know and trust, Mark King. I've known Mark for years, and I've confidently referred Medicare recipients to him time and time again because he puts people first and explains Medicare in plain English. Mark takes the time to help you understand how Medicare works, what coverage you have, and what options might be available based on your needs. There's no pressure, no confusion, and no rushed decisions. Just honest guidance from someone who's been doing this for nearly 40 years and who knows this system inside and out. If you're unsure about your doctors, your prescriptions, or your overall coverage, Mark is the go-to guy you need. Call 440-832-8936 to get an appointment. That's 440-832-8936. And for user-friendly information, visit keepingmedicaresimple.com. I trust Mark King for answers, and you can too.
All right. Love Mark King, and he does great things. I just checked in with Mark yesterday to see if he's going to be with us on Saturday the 1st, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, August 1st. We are going to be in Middleburg Heights at the Middleburg Heights GOP picnic, and co-hosted by yours truly. So it's a Middleburg Heights and Strictly Speaking Unfiltered picnic event, and it is going to be a fantastic, fantastic time. Mark is going to be there. I want you to be there as well. If you're a member of my Insiders, the Unfiltered Insiders paid subscriber organization, you are going to get the discounted ticket price, the same as the Middleburg Heights GOP members get. Non-members and guests have a little bit of a higher price. Believe me, you will walk away plenty satisfied, not only with the food, but also with the presentations. I got a list yesterday that was sent to me of some of the speakers who are going to be speaking that day, candidates and elected officials, as well as yours truly. And I'm very much looking forward to speaking, kind of co-hosting again this event. But I just want to throw a couple of these names at you. Colleen O'Donnell for the Ohio Supreme Court will be there. Morgan Caruso, judge for Court of Common Pleas. Timothy Clary, judge for Court of Common Pleas, will be there. Daniel Conway, state representative, 15th District, will be there. Judge Pamela Hawkins, Court of Common Pleas. Rain Austin is going to be singing the national anthem. The door prize is a signed copy of Truths written by Vivek Ramaswamy. It's going to be a great event, and I really want everybody to come out and see us. Just patriotism and camaraderie that I think everybody will enjoy. I went to this last year and spoke at. I think I've spoken at that picnic twice in the last 3 years, but I'm going to do a little bit more this year, and I really want you to be a part of that. So thank you to the Middleburg Heights GOP. All right, I want to pivot into something now, and before I bring on our guest, I want to play a little clip that our guest and his friends at CVA, Concerned Veterans for America, posted on X yesterday. Apologies. It just now became apparent to me that that was not on your screen. That was Dave Taylor, Representative Dave Taylor, that was posted. He was, and I guess I could probably just show you what he looks like now that the video is already over. So again, apologies for that. But Dave Taylor was speaking in support of the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, and that was posted by CVA. And I want to welcome now back for the second straight week the strategic director of CVA, and that's Adam Miller joining us now here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Adam, there he is. Adam, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Bob. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back. We talked about this some last week, and we were optimistic last week when we spoke because there was going to be a vote the very next day, last Thursday, that was going to be pushing this up for a floor. A vote on the House floor, and the Take Care of America's Veteran Act did not get that vote on the House floor, and it was a surprise to a lot of people. Adam, you were with me last week as we were laying out what this bill does, and you were as surprised as anybody, so tell us what happened.
Well, first, Bob, I want to say that Congressman Dave Taylor had an excellent floor speech last week, so I would encourage your listeners to go check that out on CVA's social media pages. Essentially, Democrats at the last minute, they wanted to derail the legislation. So they did a procedural vote to send it back to committee. Fortunately, that vote had failed and the legislation had moved to the House floor. However, because of the kind of hysteria that vote had caused and some of the Republicans that decided to join Democrats in that partisan effort, really, it kind of muddied the waters, and the speaker ended up pulling the legislation because they didn't believe that they had the votes to pass it on the floor that day. So the bill technically is still, ready to be up for a vote on the floor. It just depends on when the speaker, sends it to the floor, and we hope that, that's going to happen within the coming weeks.
You did a great job last week of explaining exactly what this bill does. And all of it is just so commonsensible. It makes, no sense whatsoever to oppose it as far as I'm concerned. Only 3 Republicans joined all of those Democrats to oppose it, which, again, was shocking to me. I thought it would be a straight party line vote. If anything, I thought there might have been a small handful of reasonable, respectful of our veterans Democrats coming over to the other side, not the other way around. So you did a great job of explaining it. Give us a thumbnail sketch for those who don't know what the Taking Care of Veterans Act actually says.
Yeah, so the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, it's really a broad package of veterans legislation, some that have been held up in committee for years. So it brings together all those bills that is going to help improve healthcare. It's going to expand benefits. It's not going to cut benefits. It's actually going to expand benefits. It's going to support survivors, caregivers, and it's going to give our veterans more options when accessing their healthcare.
Okay, so I had this up there for a second, and I want to put it back up now. This is a sheet that you guys put out. It's a fact sheet, and at the very beginning, number 1, it says, Taking Care of America's Veterans Act cuts veterans' benefits. What you just said 1 second ago, you said it doesn't cut their benefits, but that's what they have said. The Democrats who oppose this have said, and the 3 Republicans who have spoken on it, including Anna Paulina Luna, who's been the loudest about it. I haven't heard many public statements from Max Miller, Ohio's own, who was one of the 3, but they say that it cuts benefits, and that's the reason why they voted against it, and they want a better bill. Dispute that for me, could you, Adam?
Well, you have Congressman Jim Jordan coming on here in a little bit, and I can tell you, he supported advancing this legislation, and I don't think he voted to cut veterans' benefits. I think he would disagree with some of his colleagues in that regard, because the bill, it does not say that if you have a rating today that the VA is going to take that away. Unfortunately, there's one small aspect of the legislation that people are kind of hyper focused on, but what it actually says is going forward, the VA is going to use updated medical criteria when evaluating new claims. So I'm a service-connected veteran myself. So when there's a benefits office actually in Ohio's 7th Congressional District at the Parma VA, when I go get an examination from the benefits side, it is done by a medical professional. It's not done by some VA bureaucrat that wants to take away benefits. So the VA evaluates each individual veteran based on medical criteria. And back in 2022, the VA had sent some rules over to the Federal Registry identifying some reforms that they wanted to implement. This legislation simply codifies some of those reforms prior to VA implementation because it will actually protect veterans and grandfather them in and protect their current ratings. So the VA cannot lower those ratings if they're reevaluated. So it doesn't actually impact current veterans. Now, again, it's going to update the criteria for medical examinations moving forward, but we don't view that as a cut. I'm sure Congressman Jim Jordan doesn't view that as a cut. And, Senator Jon Husted, to his credit, he's been working on similar legislation in the U.S. Senate to expand benefits for veterans regarding their medical examinations.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talking to both of those gentlemen next hour. So who is it that joins the Democrats in supporting or opposing the bill? We know about the Democrats, and we know that the VFW is among them. The DAV. There's some big labor groups as well. Tell me why would the VFW, which is supposed to be for veterans, oppose something like this for veterans?
Well, I'm a member of these organizations. I'm a life member of the VFW and the DAV. And again, I think they're hyper-focused on some small details of the legislation that they view as a cut. We don't view that as a cut. I don't think that the folks that passed it onto the House floor would view any of that as a cut. I don't think anyone's actually advocating for that.
Agreed.
At the end of the day, the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, it's going to help combat injured veterans receive retirement pay and the disability compensation that they've earned. It's going to expand healthcare. It's going to give veterans more choice. It's going to expand benefits for survivors and caregivers. So we're talking Gold Star families, and it's going to improve services for veterans with specialized needs. And it's also going to modernize the way the VA delivers care and benefits. So there's so much more to this legislation, and it's unfortunate that they're not focusing on a lot of the positive aspects, and they're kind of focusing on some of the smaller aspects that unfortunately tries to divide the veterans community. But at the end of the day, nobody's trying to cut benefits or take benefits away. Senator Moran and Senator Bose, they didn't wake up one day and say, "Hey, we're going to submit legislation that's going to cut veterans benefits." That's not what's happening here.
Adam, what about the VA being privatized? And I'm looking at the fact sheet that CVA has put out here, and one of the myths is that the bill privatizes the VA. Where did that come from, and what's the reality?
Yeah, well, you had mentioned some labor unions, and unfortunately, America's largest federal workers union, the American Federation for Government Employees, they often say that this legislation or more access and choice for veterans to receive healthcare is privatizing the VA. It actually doesn't privatize the VA, and CVA and a lot of our other organizations that we work with are not calling for the privatization for the Department of Veterans Affairs. That is a myth. We want to see veterans at the center of their healthcare. So if they receive great care at the VA and they can be seen in a timely manner, then they should utilize that. I am currently a VA patient. I was at the Akron VA yesterday getting a small procedure done for a service-connected condition. But if the VA in Akron can't see me in a timely manner, then I should have the option to seek community care. And that's what the Take Care of America's Veterans Act does. It puts veterans at the center of their healthcare. And it's unfortunate that some organizations have been putting out some misinformation on what the actual legislation does. And I would note that America's largest veteran service organization is supporting this legislation, and that's the American Legion.
So, it's interesting because when you look at multiple veterans groups kind of having a different opinion on a piece of legislation, it makes it look like veterans aren't united and care for one another. And I know that's not the reality of it. And I know CVA in particular doesn't want that to be the case. But when you do have, say, the VFW opposing something that the largest group that you just mentioned, supports, how do we reconcile that? What do we have to reconcile that?
I mean, I think the discussions have been great, have been productive. Just kind of going back to the vote to send it back to committee last week that failed. If a member of Congress, a lawmaker, if they have an issue with a piece of legislation, then they can submit amendments. you had mentioned some members who voted against advancing the legislation. Well, they didn't submit any amendments to the Rules Committee to adjust the legislation. So when they vote against advancing it, it kind of raises some red flags, and to us as advocates, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, this legislation, it doesn't take away benefits from veterans who are already service connected, and I think that's a key distinction. And we're going to continue these conversations with coalition partners and organizations that you had mentioned to try to advance the legislation that's going to impact the most veterans, caregivers, Gold Star families in the best way possible.
Yeah, and it's extraordinarily important, obviously, that we take care of our veterans, which is why the name of it, of course, is so apropos. It's as simple as that. And you and I talked last week about this. We talked about the number of veteran suicides. We talk about the number of veteran homeless. We talk about the number of veterans who are not getting the medical care they deserve, even if they aren't in that precarious position of being homeless. But they need all of the assistance they can get. Now, Speaker Johnson blamed misinformation, as I understand it, for the holdup and that defeat last week to be able to stop it from getting to the House floor for a full vote. He said that it's going to come back in September. So what is the misinformation, or is it just what you're talking about in this conversation about suggesting that it cuts benefits when it really does not? Is that the misinformation that the opposing groups are trying to push forward? Is it just about cutting benefits, or is it more than that?
Yes, that appears to be, the main issue that a lot of these organizations are held up on. And again, future tinnitus and sleep apnea claims, they're still going to be eligible for compensation when veterans meet those medical requirements. And again, when we apply for those benefits, we get a medical examination from a medical professional. It's not a bureaucrat. It's not, a member of Congress that's doing the examination that just really wants to cut our benefits. And I can tell you, Concerned Veterans for America, we're not advocating for any cuts to benefits, and we wouldn't advocate for that. And I can tell you that, AM Vets, who was supporting the legislation, MOA, Military Officers Association of America, all these great organizations, they're not supporting cuts to veterans benefits. So, we're going to continue to kind of, try to educate the general public on what the actual legislation does with kind of the seriousness of the situation and the short timeline that we have in 2026 to get a lot of this legislation passed ahead of 2027, again, to save lives, to impact veterans' healthcare, to support caregivers, to support survivors, and again, to really uplift and empower those in the veterans community.
Adam, as we talk, I'm looking through that fact sheet again, and I was and maybe you said it and I missed it. What is the Major Richard Starr Act? Because that seems to be of some importance here.
Yeah, so the Major Richard Starr Act, that's a piece of legislation that's been held up for almost 6 years, and it gives combat injured veterans the ability to receive retirement pay and disability compensation. Now, that legislation is within the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. I think it's actually the first section of the legislation. And again, that's going to support veterans who were medically retired due to their service. And we think that's that's an important provision within the legislation. But we also, we're very strong supporters of the Veterans Access Act, which again expands access to timely and quality health care. Again, the bill is over 500 pages, and I would encourage your listeners, if they're bored one day, to maybe read through some of the provisions. There's so much in the legislation that expands benefits for survivors and families. And again, it expands benefits. It doesn't cut benefits. So that's, again, kind of the myth that we're trying to dispel, and we're going to continue to try to educate as many people as we can. And, Congressman Jim Jordan's coming on, Senator Jon Husted, and I can tell you, I'm pretty sure that they would be against cutting veterans benefits.
No question about that. Sadly, in our attention span society that we have, nobody's going to read 500 pages. Is there a CVA summary where some of the specific things you and I are talking about? And that's why I'm glad you're doing interviews like this, because I want people to get the bullet points of it at least, because people aren't going to be able to absorb a ton of it, on their own. So is there a summary CVA website? Where can people see it?
Yeah, I would encourage folks to follow us on social media, Concerned Veterans for America, and then also our website, cv4a.org. We have a lot of good information on there. And then the other organizations that are supporting the legislation, they're putting a lot of great content that identifies the key points of this legislation. More access, more options, more support for veterans and their families. And that's really what the Take Care of America's Veterans Act does. It expands benefits, increases benefits. It doesn't cut them.
That's what it's all about. And as a Marine, I know you would not be fighting for anything less as a retired Marine. And it blows my mind that anybody would be opposed to these things, and that anybody would be trying to sabotage it by saying that it cuts benefits rather than enhances and expands benefits for veterans. And I know that's the only thing you guys care about. Adam, I really appreciate you coming on as always. Strategic Director of CVA. Obviously, when this thing comes back up, hopefully in September, we're having a different conversation at that point in time. But in the meantime, we'll continue to try to educate people about what it really does, as I know you guys will as well. And you're always welcome back to continue to let people know. All right.
Thanks, Bob. Have a great day.
Always appreciate it. Thank you, Adam. All right, there you go. That's Adam Miller, Strategic Director of CVA. I feel bad because I didn't have it on the screen. I didn't realize it was not on the screen. I only had the audio playing of Dave Taylor, but he's one of the representatives who, as you heard him say, and I don't want to play the whole thing again, but here he is. He was given some major kudos by CVA for being one of the original sponsors of this bill. So I'm not going to play the whole thing again, but I just want you to see him because you were only able to hear him before. But this is extraordinarily important. I don't know anything that should unite people more on both sides of the political aisle than supporting those who took bullets, explosions, wounded in whatever way, or even if they just have the psychological wounds, the PTSD, whatever they need, the tinnitus, which, coming from the, the battlefield and, explosions and so forth that rob people of their hearing or significant portions of it. All of these things, sleep apnea, that veterans have suffered, all of that care is available to them. And I cannot understand how this would not be one of the few things that unites people on the right and the left, the conservative and the leftist. I mean, honestly, why did every single Democrat vote against helping veterans? And why did 3 Republicans join them? As I said to Adam, I thought if there was to be any crossover at all, it would have been the other direction. It would have been a handful of reasonable, Democrats crossing over and supporting, the Taking Care of America's Veterans Act, and bringing it up to a House vote. But instead, it was the other way around. Max Miller is one of them, and Max Miller is. I contacted him when I first found out about his vote, one of the 3 votes against bringing this for a floor vote. And he said largely what Adam Miller just said, those who are on the other side say. He says it cuts veterans' benefits, and he's not going to do that. He wants it to be a better bill. And I said, how? And he never was very clear. I'm going to try to talk to him again. I think he's going to be at the Middleburg Heights picnic that I was talking about as well. So we'll be able to ask him directly there. If you're going to be there a week from Saturday on August 1st, and I hope you are, because we need to get to the bottom, and we need to get some answers on this thing. Because our veterans, like I said, the idea that everybody in America is sad and angry that some American servicemen, soldiers, were killed in Jordan this past few days by an Iranian strike of an American base in Jordan. We're all upset by that for obvious reasons, Republicans and Democrats. Nobody likes that. We're on a very important mission in Iran, but nobody wants to see American casualties. And the one thing I would think is that all Republicans and all Democrats would say anybody who fights in that war, anybody who's serving on a base that's in the Middle East and the surrounding Arab states that might be in the line of fire, when they come home, they should, those who are fortunate enough to be breathing when they come home, they deserve every single bit of support and medical care that they can get of all types. I can't imagine anybody saying they shouldn't. Like I said, Republicans and Democrats together on this. Why are Democrats opposing and just a handful of Republicans opposing such common sense legislation? It's something I don't understand, but we're going to continue to turn to our friends at CVA to learn more about that. All right. And thank you to, by the way, Donovan O'Neill and AFP Ohio, Americans for Prosperity Ohio, one of our big supporters of this organization. Donovan gave up his spot today so that we could talk to Adam from CVA. It actually worked out well because Donovan was traveling, but he said, can you talk to Adam again? Because he's got something that's really important to us as well. And so thank you to AFP for all of their great work. Thank you also to this guy for his great work. One of our foundational sponsors, Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. You know where to go. If you've got a knock or a ping or something is wrong, you got a dash light, the computer in your car has got some things that are glitching out on you. Doesn't matter whether it's mechanical or software related. Charlie is your guy. Take a look at the website, phone number there at 216, or I'm sorry, take a look at your screen, 216-470-0170. If you're in Northeast Ohio watching, there's no reason not to go to Lakewood and to see Charlie. Although I would highly recommend calling Charlie first because the lot is so full. He is constantly working on every engine you can imagine. Cars, lawnmowers, snow blowers. I had somebody drop off a Rascal while I was at his place just this past Saturday. A Rascal scooter, engine wasn't working. Charlie will fix anything, and he'll take great care of you. He's a MAGA, America First patriot, and that's one of the reasons why he supports us, and it's one of the reasons why we support him right back. Don't forget, if you are a first responder, a veteran, active military, or a concealed carry holder, he'll give you 10% off of your work. So whatever's wrong, call Charlie, 216-470-0170. And thank you to Charlie for being a foundational partner of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered as well. All right. Great stuff by Adam there. Really important stuff by Adam there. I've got Congressman Jim Jordan coming up after the top of the hour. It's 7:59, so we're going to take a short break here. Little interlude. This time we're going to give you the agents because we're going to talk about ICE agents with Congressman Jim Jordan right after this.
Yo, ICE, let's kick it. ICE agents. ICE agents. All right, stop against the wall and listen. ICE is here on a lawful mission. Don't move, because we're holding you tightly, rounding up aliens daily and nightly. Will we ever stop? Oh, hell no. Don't make us come for you. Just go. If they extreme, we take them down to the ground. Tear gas is ready when the mob comes around. Damn, they like to scream and shout, but none of them knows what they're talking about. Deadly, they coming at us like the enemy. They play the race card, facing down a felony. All the invaders, you best get away. We rolling up quick, we not here to play. If there's an alien, yo, we'll find him. Homeboy can run, but we're right up behind him. ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. Now that the border is tighter, cartel smuggles run a little bit lighter. Coming at you hard, we hit with precision. Trying to resist us, bad decision. Raid them, illegal operations. Kicking fugitives out this nation. Let's move, time to pick up the tempo. We gotta roll there outside Home Depot. Rolling with the local 5-0. With the blue lights on just to let them know. Karen's on the roadside holding up the hate signs. Did we stop? No, we just kept flying, moving on. Pursuing all the bad guys. We must have left and they scatter like mayflies. The block was dead, yo, so we continue to Tampon's Place, Tim Walls Avenue. Aliens all in the sanctuary city. Activists in the way begging for pity. So sad, cause we not here to play. Violate our laws and you're going away. ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. We are the ICE agents. Yo, take heed, because we never stop looking. We catch you on the scene, we start hooking and booking our town. Yo, man, let's get them out of here. Back home to their mothers. Ice, ice agents, let's roll. 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 Let's roll. Ice, ice agents, let's roll. Let's roll.
Yeah, ICE agents are going to be rolling into New York. Tom Homan announced a couple of days ago, massive surge of ICE agents coming to New York because sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are not going to stop them from doing the job that they are supposed to do, and that is enforcing federal law. Kathy Hochul, Zoltar Moms. That's right. I know what his name is. I call him Zoltar. Zoltar Mamdani. Guess what? President Trump was elected to enact the largest deportation in American history. And guess what? He is keeping his word, and they are coming. No amount of sanctuary status is going to stop this. All right. And neither are the obstructionists, the agitators, or anybody else that are getting in the way. You want to change federal law, change federal law. But as long as the law exists, we have to enforce it. And that's exactly what these agents are doing. They will always have our support. All right. Time to welcome back to our program the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan. Welcome back, Congressman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Bob. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too, sir. Real quick, just because we were talking a little bit about ICE and ICE agents, wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last week. We had a brief, 24-hour pause, a temporary pause that Secretary Mullen had asked for in terms of stopping or ceasing the traffic stops unless necessary. President Trump 1 day later said, "Okay, that's over now. Get back to work. Go get these." What are your thoughts on that?
No, I did. And look, I think you as you pointed out, this president's going to do what he said he was going to do. And people who are entering the country illegally, he's going to enforce the law, and particularly for those who commit violent crime. And this is why these sanctuary jurisdictions are so ridiculous, and something that we've talked about. We've been working on. We've passed legislation out of our committee to deal with it. So yeah, the president's just simply carrying out what the American people elected him to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And nothing more important than this, I don't think, because we are literally talking about security. There is a big, long list of people who have been harmed. And I don't think anybody knew, because we hear about the Lake and Riley Act, and we hear about a few of the names, Rachel Morin and Jocelyn Ungary and so many others. But that list is so much longer than anybody realizes, the number of Americans who have been harmed by people who had no business being in this country in the first place. That's why President Trump won in 2024. It's why you have your chair right now at the Judiciary Committee, the majority, because the majority of American people said, we don't want any more of this. And the Democrats' commitment to these illegal aliens trying to stop ICE is really something to behold.
Well, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Jessica Gorman come testify. Yeah. Some of the most powerful testimony. I've been in Congress for several years. Maybe this is the most powerful testimony I've ever seen, because she talked about what happened to her daughter Sheridan, who was killed by an illegal migrant who, in a sanctuary jurisdiction, who had been charged with previous crimes. Loyola student there in Chicago, just out with their friends, and tragically, just terrible, just killed. And her mom was just an amazing witness, telling the story, talking about it as only a mom could. Powerful testimony. And again, it was all. This is why this sanctuary jurisdiction is so stupid, because it is literally the politicians telling local law enforcement, don't work with federal law enforcement. Don't work together in enforcing federal law. That is just dumb. That is just dumb. There's no other way to say it. And this is why we're for the common sense thing of, no, let them work together to enforce the law in these sanctuary jurisdictions. As we pointed out before, Bob, almost a third of the country now, because it's all these big cities, big blue cities in big blue states. Almost a third of the country lives in a jurisdiction where the politicians have told local law enforcement, you can't work with federal law enforcement in enforcing the federal law when it comes to illegal migrants. And it's just, again, a ridiculous policy. That we have a good bill. It's passed the committee. Hopefully we'll get it past the House soon.
Yeah, no question about it. And just super quick, because you brought up when you brought up the Mrs. Gorman, your colleagues embarrassed themselves, acted so horrifically. I think it was Pramila Jayapal, was it not, who said, I can't believe we have to sit up here and talk. This is the fourth time we could be doing more important things than listening to these, families of these victims of illegal alien crime. And then Jamie Raskin screaming at Lawler and telling him to shut up and all of these things. They don't want the American people to know, do they, sir, that these things are happening. And they don't want them to know that there were real victims and real families suffering because of the policies of open borders.
Yep. And I said this in the hearing. I don't care if it takes 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't care how many hearings we got to have. We want to end this stupid policy, a policy that is just contrary to any common sense. Most local law enforcement people want to work with the federal law enforcement people and understand what it means in practice. It's literally like, ICE will learn, oh, you have an illegal migrant who's been charged with an additional crime sitting in your jail, sitting in your detention center. Can you just give us notice if you're going to let this guy out? Because we'll come apprehend him at the jail or the detention center before we release him. And in sanctuary jurisdictions, they say, no, we're going to let him out on the streets. And sometimes they go a step further. We've had prosecutors around the country, these liberal prosecutors who say, we have a policy in our jurisdiction which says, we're not only going to not work with federal law enforcement, we're going to take into account their immigration status, their deportation status when we decide what to charge them with. So they give them a lesser charge or a better plea agreement than they do for an American citizen. That's unconstitutional. But that's what's going on in so many of these places where you have these liberal prosecutors.
I know you have no jurisdiction in Minnesota, and it's not your fight up there, but just the worst example of that was last week, was it not? When Governor Walz had given a pardon to an illegal alien who had raped multiple times a 10-year-old girl over the course of a 2-year period, starting when she was 10 years old. They gave him a pardon, along with the Attorney General up there, Keith Ellison, solely because they didn't want to deport another illegal alien. And then he said, well, none of us should be judged by our worst day. How many worse days?
Oh my goodness!
Do you remember that? It was just.
Oh
yeah.
No,
and I was blown away by that. I mean, it's the heartlessness of these people because of their pet causes, and open borders, of course, being the worst of them.
Yeah, this is today's left. And when it comes to immigration, I think we should understand their larger plan. Remember, Joe Biden's 4 years let in 10 million illegal migrants. Just no border. Just let people come in the country. Step 2, create sanctuary jurisdictions, which makes it difficult to remove those individuals, as we pointed out, even when they commit another crime. Step 3, don't fund the guys who do the removing. Twice they've shut down the government. They didn't want to fund ICE. They didn't want to fund the guys who are out there who are already facing all kinds of harassment. They're being yelled at, screamed at, spit on, doxxed, tracked, everything else, attacked, threatened, everything else. And they said, oh, in addition to that, we don't want to pay you because we don't want you, doing your job. And then finally, the fourth step in their crazy scheme, their crazy plan is these prosecutors treat them better than they do American citizens who are charged with the same crime. That is the left's agenda. That is their plan when it comes to our border and when it comes to illegal immigration. That is ridiculous. And it's one of the things we have to do is make sure the country fully understands that if you keep these guys, or you let these guys win the Congress, there's going to be more of this ridiculousness. That's why I think it's important Republicans, one of the many reasons why it's important Republicans win the midterms.
Absolutely right. And ending this sanctuary city scourge. And just super quick, one follow-up on this. You just issued a subpoena for Larry Krasner, the DA in Philadelphia, over sanctuary city policies. Can you tell us what the goal is there?
We're looking for any communications documents, because what we found in some of these places, like Mr. Descano, who's the DA, the prosecutor in Fairfax County, Virginia, a county of 1.8 million people just across the line here from DC, we found that they had stated policies to say we will look at their immigration status. We will look at it if they're going to be deported before we decide. So we want all that information about Krasner. You got Bragg, you got Krasner, you got Descano, you got all these guys in these big urban areas who are soft on crime, left-wing prosecutors who are in sanctuary jurisdictions. We're trying to get all the evidence we've already got a bill that we passed, but this helps us influence what we may do with grant dollars that go to these areas, or what we can do with possible additional legislation to do our job as legislators. So we wanted this information. We've sent subpoenas there. We'll see what we get back.
Talking to Congressman Jim Jordan, House Chairman, Judiciary Committee Chairman. I want to ask what your thoughts are. Pivot now to, you mentioned the midterms, and I want to talk about the safety and security of our elections. President Trump's primetime address was last Thursday. Wow, talk about bringing the receipts. Everything has been uploaded to whitehouse.gov under election integrity. It's all there. I don't know if everybody has gone to see that, but they did watch the speech. What was your, not only reaction to the president's address, but specifically to what we learned? 270-some thousand non-citizens on the voter rolls in 4 states, 220 million Americans' voting information has been hacked and obtained by the Chinese. This is some extraordinary information, and the Democrats and the media ignored it all.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny. Some of the, not funny, just sad. Some of these networks, didn't cover the president's remarks in his speech, but then as soon as it was done, they attacked it. Like, well, okay, if you're going to attack his speech, at least let the American people see what he said, for goodness sake. I think CNN and MSNBC took that approach. I think the overall takeaway is this is just underscores why we need the Save America Act, why we need citizenship proof and photo ID before you vote. I mean, that coupled with what we learned about New Jersey just yesterday, almost 7,000 people, non-citizens, were on their voter rolls in New Jersey. So this just underscores why that is so important. A couple more specific things. One of the people he referenced in his remarks was this lady at the FBI who said, "I'm running a shadow FBI." We actually deposed that lady. I'm forgetting her name as we speak here, but we deposed her last Congress. We're going to go back and look at that transcript. We're going to dig into that. We're going to investigate what's happening in New Jersey, what we just learned of yesterday. I think it was 6,600, almost 7,000 people, non-citizens on their voter registration rolls. And then we're going to continue our investigation into Act Blue, where we've deposed now 6 people. They've all taken the fifth. The president of their board indicated that Act Blue took in, it looks like they took in at least $48 million from non-citizens, foreign contributions, which is against the law. So we're doing all that, all to help safeguard the integrity of our election process.
Yeah, and it's sad that it should be both parties fighting for the same thing. All we want to do is make sure that the elections are safe and secure. And the other side is literally, and I don't know what you thought of Alyssa Slotkin, who actually said about a little week ago, look, if the Save America thing passes, Democrats won't be able to win elections anymore. You talk about saying the quiet part out loud. Is she just admitting if we don't have rigged elections, we lose?
And how about that judge? We had a court decision a couple of weeks ago where, you got the voter registration rolls in the respective states. Our election laws, state law. I get it. That's our constitution works. That's a good thing. You don't want. You remember Nancy Pelosi tried a few years. You don't want Nancy Pelosi dictating how every election has to run. We have a good system in our state of Ohio. We want to keep that, and that's how the Constitution works. All good. But you have a list, and then the federal government has a list of people who are here on visas. So non-citizens who are in our country, and what we wanted to do, what the administration wanted to do was say, okay, states, give us your list and we'll match them up and determine if you have people on your list who are non-citizens. In essence, what New Jersey told us yesterday. And all these blue states are saying, no, we don't want to give it. And the judge says, no, you don't have to give that information to the federal government. And they said it was a privacy. There's no privacy concern. It's one list, other list, match them up and find out. That's a good way to help determine if you have non-citizens voting in elections. But no, you got this liberal judge and you got the left who says that you can't do that. Again, underscoring that the crazy positions the left takes that are contrary to common sense.
They are every bit of that, Congressman. Where are we on the Save Act now? I saw you posted, or your team did, or somebody on your X account. 83% of Americans. It's an 83. It's not even an 80-20 issue. It's an 83-17 issue now in terms of voter identification. I mean, and every demographic: Hispanic supported by some 70%, Black supported by 70-some%. Again, 83% of Americans say photo identification should be required, and only American citizens should vote. Yet here we sit with another fight. The last I got, and I feel like I'm watching a ping pong match because it's back and it's forth and it's back and it's forth. But the last thing I saw was Speaker Johnson was able to put the SAVE Act into a reconciliation bill so it can go to the Senate and be passed by a.
Well, that's what we're working on. We will take the first step on that today to pass the budget reconciliation, which sets the parameters, and then you move forward with the next step. So we're moving down that road where we will replenish the troops with money in that budget reconciliation package when we get to it. We will help with our ag and farming community around the country, and we will have Save America in there as well. So that's the plan. We took the first step. We will take the first step today when we pass what's called the budget reconciliation, the framework for then moving forward with that. So we'll see. That's the idea, that we want all those in there.
What's your confidence level on that, sir?
I feel good it'll get through the House, but the Senate's the Senate. We'll see. It's why the filibuster's got to go. I mean, we've seen now what the Democrat socialists want to do. Their whole agenda. We know what the Democrats will do if they God forbid, get control of the Congress. They've already talked about packing the court. They've talked about DC and Puerto Rico as states, so they get more U.S. senators, more Democrat senators. They've talked about the Democrat socialists.
I apologize, sir, but if they have their way, there won't be more Democratic senators because there won't be a Senate.
Exactly. That's what I was going to next.
The Senate.
They want to get rid of everything except the House of Representatives. They just want to, that whole approach. So radical stuff they're putting forward underscores why, if that's all going to happen, and of course, if there is a Senate, they're going to get rid of the filibuster right away. So underscoring why we should just get rid of it and enact this voter integrity bill, the Save America Act.
So I'm glad you brought it up. It was going to be one of my questions anyway. In fact, it was the lead graphic I put up because I'm talking to Senator Husted in a few minutes too. I'm going to ask him the same thing. How concerned are you about this socialist takeover of the Democrat Party? And if the Democrats win in November, then it becomes the socialist takeover of the United States of America. You've got people. Yeah. This left-wing influencer who is a major player in supporting people like Mamdani and a bunch of the other socialists who won in New York a few weeks back, who literally was praising Mao, who killed over 70 million people.
I saw this.
You saw that, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about, an ideology, socialism and communism, that has killed hundreds of millions of people, that is literally taking over one of America's two political parties. How concerned are you about that?
Very, I mean, extremely, because, and I think you've got it just right. It's the once great party of FDR and JFK is now anti-Israel and socialist. That's scary. I mean, it just is, and it's like because some people are saying, oh, this could help Republicans in the midterm because we're running against these crazy leftists. Well, it might, but the bigger concern is, what does this mean for our country? The greatest nation ever. You now have, again, the party of FDR, the party of John F. Kennedy, this great American political party that is anti-Israel, in many ways anti-Semitic. And you saw that half the Democrats last week in the House of Representatives either voted to not allow money to go to Israel, not to help our best ally, the one democracy in the Middle East, to not allow aid and help to go there. For their defense and everything else, or they just said it out. They took the sissy way out and didn't vote. They voted present, for goodness sake. So that's scary, and it's now more than half the members of the Democrat conference in the United States House of Representatives are now on record either opposing helping Israel or voted present.
Yeah, and the other side of that, or I guess goes hand in hand with that, with opposing Israel, is being supportive of Islam and being supportive of the Islamicization, if you will, of the United States. And again, I know we have freedom of religion in this country, and I'm not going to ask you to speak ill of that, but the dangers of the type of from the river to the sea type of pro-Islamic. I mean, look, we're at war right now, Congressman, with an Islamic Republic of Iran. Mm-hmm. It is not compatible. Charlie Kirk, who's almost a year on from his brutal murder, Charlie Kirk was known for quoting it, I think, the best, that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. It's not compatible with the United States of America, with our Constitution either. And it's fine if you want to be a peaceful Muslim practicing your faith, but the radicalization goes hand in hand with the anti-Semitism you just described that the Democrats have embraced.
And one of the key things we have to do is make sure none of that stuff, none of it comes into our party. You can't have, at least we got to keep one of the great political parties in America, pro-Israel, making sure that element, that anti-Semitic, anti-Israel element does not become part of our party. It's one of the things I've been really focused on in these primaries that we're getting involved with around the country is making sure that our nominee in good Republican congressional seats is pro-Israel kind of Republican, not let any of this element get into our party at all.
100% agree. And since we're talking about Israel, and since I just mentioned the war, the last question I have for you this morning is on Iran. Iran is proving to be a lot more difficult to solve than any of us probably expected, including the president. He talked about this back in February being kind of a 3-week campaign, and we're going to end their ability to get a nuclear weapon, and we'll be on our way. And here we are 5 months in. So he says he doesn't care about the midterms, but I know you do. I know I do. I know we all do. But if Iran remains a mess for 3 more months, the midterms are going to be problematic, to say the very least. What's going to happen?
Well, first of all, he does care about the midterms. I think the point he's making when in certain statements that he said is that he wants to accomplish the mission, which is making sure Iran, 47 years, largest state sponsor of terrorism, evil regime, killed Americans, killed Israelis, killed people all over the planet, killed thousands of their own people, killed their star athlete, this junior wrestling champion, 19-year-old who protested, hung him publicly, making sure that regime that did all that doesn't get a nuclear weapon. So that's his focus. And I think his point was that I'm so focused on that. There are other things that are important, but that's what we got to get accomplished. That's the mission. So I agree with that mission. He told us that was one of the things he was going to do when he ran for the job. Now, the implications for the election, look, we'd all like for this thing to be over with and for the United States and our military and the administration to accomplish the goal of making sure they have no nuclear weapons. We'd like for that to have been done months ago. It hasn't yet. And, we got to stay after it. So let's hope it gets over with soon. But I still think the American people are smart people. They have common sense. They can see that you don't want this regime getting a nuclear weapon. And that's what the president's designed to do. So we'll just have to go out and talk to the American people and win this election.
Yesterday, Secretary Hegseth was arguing for the funding that we need, and he got into some back and forth with some of the Democrat legislators who were screaming at him to win the war, get it over with, show some leadership. His response was, how about if you show some leadership and fund what we need? And that is something that did not happen, of course, at a satisfactory level for 4 years, when Biden, because they didn't prioritize it. Will the Pentagon get the money? The Department of War, will they get what they need?
Yeah, I think we're committed to that. Here's the bottom, just common sense. When you're in a war, you got to replenish the troops. You got to replenish the bullets. You got to replenish the ammunition and the weapons and the things you need to make sure the bad guys don't prevail and that you accomplish the mission, which again, as we've said, is to make sure that Iran doesn't get nuclear capability.
That's exactly what it's all about. And Congressman, I'm glad you're dedicated to that. I apologize. I did have one more question for you because I was talking to Adam Miller from the CVA, Concerned Veterans for America, and we were discussing the TCVA Act, the Taking Care of Americans Veterans Act.
Yeah.
And it did not get to the House floor for a vote last week. Very disappointing. Every Democrat voted against that. And 3 of your colleagues, including one from Ohio, Congressman Miller, voted against that. What is your feeling on how that is playing out and why that isn't an easy passage from everybody?
Yeah, there were a few of our veterans organizations who were concerned about some of the costs, some of the things in the bill. Most veterans organizations supported it, but some didn't. And I think that was the concern that members had. Look, our veterans, what they've done for our country. There's just really, frankly, in many ways, no way to measure that. They've sacrificed in so many ways. So I get the argument. The chairman of that committee will go back to work and make sure we can get something through. But I do anticipate it gets through at some point. We just want to work out a few things with some of these veterans groups.
You obviously voted in favor of it, though, which I was very, very happy to see. And like I said, all but 3 of you did. Can you just give me one specific line or give me one quick explanation as to why you support that piece of legislation?
Because our veterans did, I mean, greatest country in history, and we don't have that but for veterans. I mean, I 250 years we just celebrated. So I feel like this is a group of individuals that you make sure when there's legislation that helps them and is the right kind of legislation, you support it. And that's why I supported it. Like I said, I hope we will get some of the differences worked out. I think there were, I forget how many different VA supporting groups were, in favor of the bill, but there were a couple who had concerns about some of the things that were in there to pay for the benefits that were in the legislation. So I think we'll get that worked out.
Congressman Jim Jordan, thank you for your great work.
You bet.
All right, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
That's Congressman Jordan, and I knew, I was talking to Adam about it. Clearly, Congressman Jordan voted in favor of that, but I just wanted to get him on the record with a line as to why, and he's so spot on with this. And I will never understand why anybody could possibly, or how anybody could vote against supporting our veterans in the ways that this bill does, including and especially a former Marine or a retired Marine like Max Miller. You're talking about somebody in the Marine Corps who voted against this. Anna Paulina Luna, too, another vet who voted against it. It's very disturbing and very disappointing. But obviously, Congressman Jordan voted in favor of and supports that Taking Care of America's Veterans Act. All right. He obviously also, of course, supports the Save America Act. And it was an extremely important part of the conversation that we just had, because we found out so much last week during the president's address, his primetime address. We found out about 220 million American voters' information hacked by the Chinese. That the Chinese actively interfered with America's elections, particularly in 2020, but not just in 2020. The fact that 270-some thousand non-citizens are on the voter rolls and able to vote in federal elections just in 4 states that cooperated and reported this. Multiply that out, extrapolate that over 50 states, for crying out loud. We have a major problem, and the Save America Act absolutely must become law. And, maybe the way is what Congressman Jordan just talked about, and what Speaker Johnson just did, sliding the Save America Act into the budget reconciliation process and putting it there might be what it takes to get it through. If we can just get a simple majority, just a simple majority. And I don't know where it's going to go, because last time I checked, there were still 4 senators that were opposing the passage of that bill. And I believe one of them was Tillis. I believe one was McConnell, and I don't know what his vote is going to look like these days. One of them was Murkowski, and I think Collins, right? I think those, and no, Collins flipped back over because she's, of course, running for re-election. So anyway, there's a chance that it gets through in the Senate if it does get out of the House in the Budget Reconciliation Act, and we'll see. I asked Congressman Jordan his confidence level. You heard what he said. He said, "I'm very confident that it's going to get out of the House, but in the Senate, who knows?" And he's exactly right, unfortunately. Speaking of the Senate, it is my privilege now to welcome back to our program Ohio Senator Jon Husted, who is, of course, in a fight to keep his seat in the Senate, to which he was appointed. He is battling former Senator Sherrod Brown, and he's doing a lot of very important work along the way. We welcome him now to Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Senator Husted, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Great to be with you, Bob. I'm doing wonderful.
It's good to have you here. Real quick, let's just launch there because I just finished a conversation with Chairman Jordan, House Judiciary, and we were talking about the Save America Act. You watched the president's live primetime address, and I saw some of your reactions to it online as well. Can you give us your feelings on election integrity in the United States as we know it today?
Well, I was on the floor on Monday night. I joined Mike Lee, Marsha Blackburn, and my colleague Bernie Moreno from Ohio. We were out on the floor trying to urge the passage of the Save America Act. As a former Secretary of State, I've sort of taken the lead role in the Senate on the voter ID provision because I understand these issues so well. I actually added an argument to my case for voter ID because people talk about it in terms of election integrity. Certainly true. But also, I'm making the case that it's great for election administration as well. And here's my point. In California, remember the recent mayoral election in LA and the governor's election in the primary? It took them over a week to count the ballots, okay? Why did it take them over a week to count the ballots? Because on all of their mail-in ballots and all of their signature, they do this. You sign your signature to register to vote, and then you sign your signature on the mail-in ballot, and they literally force election workers to become handwriting experts, as qualifying the vote means that I'm going to have to figure out whether this signature matches this signature. It takes them an extremely long time to administer that election. It, of course, is not a very accurate way to do it. You could simply just do a photo ID. You would speed up the process of bringing election results and vote counting to a conclusion so much faster. So not only is it an integrity issue, it's an election administration issue. Because if you remember those elections, the leaders kept changing day to day, and it undermines public confidence in the election when it takes a week to count ballots, and then you end up with a different person winning than the one that was in the lead at the beginning. Another case that I'm making to try to dislodge the Save America Act, particularly the photo ID portion, and get that passed.
83%. 83. I just talked to Jordan about this. 83% of Americans, according to the most recent numbers, which means it's up from 80%. We've been calling it an 80-20 issue, but 83% of Americans say, yeah, photo ID should be required to vote in this country. It's the only way to make sure that the elections are secure. If 83% of people want to do it, why do the Democrats oppose it?
Well, I also want to say that my photo ID provision, because understand, I wrote it exactly like Ohio's because I wanted to say, look, this works. Ohio, very contested state from elections point of view. We'll just model it on ours. And I got all 53 Republican votes for that when I offered it on the floor. Even Lisa Murkowski, even Mitch McConnell voted for my provision. And so I'm still hopeful that we can get this done, because if you got 53 votes for the photo ID provision, that's we can put that in a reconciliation process, get that part done.
Just super quick, Senator, on this issue. One of the reasons why the Democrats oppose this so much is they say, and Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, says repeatedly that this is like Jim Crow laws because it makes it harder for blacks to be able to vote. Blacks and Hispanics, I think specifically. I was talking to a researcher 2 nights ago that I recorded an interview with, who said that literally every single nation on the continent of Africa has photo identification for their election requirements. And virtually every Latin American and Central and South American country, Hispanics, have the same thing. So why is it that Africans and Hispanics in those other countries can find photo, but when you're an African in America or a Latino American, suddenly it's impossible to get a photo identification? How insulting is that?
Honestly, I'm clearly not in Chuck Schumer's targeted groups of people who he thinks are incapable of having the tools and the skills to use it. But I'd be offended if I was any of those groups of people, because they're just as capable as I am at doing what it takes to cast a ballot using a photo ID. We all use photo IDs, from checking into a hotel to renting a car to opening a bank account to getting on an airplane. It's a very common thing. We all have it, and it's insulting, I think, to any group that Chuck Schumer identifies to somehow think that they're less capable than anyone else of being able to do this. He just doesn't want to do it because Donald Trump does want to do it.
That is true. I think that is true to an extent, but then there is the other part of this too, which Elissa Slotkin said out loud last week, which you saw. She said, if we have the Save America Act passed, Democrats are going to have a hard time winning elections. So, I mean, it's more than just because Trump supports it, they want to oppose it. They really feel like they can't win if there is a photo identification requirement and citizen-only registration.
Well, I mean, it's kind of astonishing to me. It really is that they would come to that conclusion. I mean, what an insult to their own voters to say that, gee, the people voting for me are incapable of doing a basic function like producing an ID and casting a ballot. I would never insult the people who vote for me by saying that about them.
No, and you know what? They are insulted. That's the thing, because of the 83%. I mean, Black Americans are very insulted by that. Latino Americans are very insulted by that. And that's why 83% of them say, let's have photo identification. To say that we are less than is just, it's just a bridge too far. I want to talk a little bit about the Invest Act. This is your personal push here, or you're providing leadership. And I love, by the way, you have obviously settled into your job, and I know that's why you want this full term, because you are really, really starting to take some leadership positions here, and I love to see it. And I know your constituents here in our state do as well. But Senator Husted, tell us about the Invest Act.
So the Invest Act would require the federal government, if they take an equity stake in any company, to divest of that equity stake within 8 years, and any of the proceeds would go to pay down the national debt. Okay. Why? What motivated me to do this? I understand President Trump made some investments in companies, in the chip sector, in the rare earth sector, in the tech sector, because he wanted to help do more made in America. China was undermining those industries. And so he decided, rather than give grants to these companies where only the shareholders of those companies benefit from it, he wanted the federal government to take a stake so that the taxpayers would get the benefit of that. Okay. I accept the premise under which he did that. Sometimes that may be necessary when you're competing against state-owned capitalism like China. All right. I'll be generous with my term there. However, I don't want the federal government to become owners of American companies, because I want to beat China. I don't want to be like China, right?
Thanks.
And so I want the federal government to divest. And I'll tell you, I was a new member. I thought, well, clearly some of the senior members see the trouble with doing this, and they'll lean in. No one did. And then all of a sudden I hear Bernie Sanders saying, well, the federal government should take a 50% stake in all the AI companies. And Bernie Sanders was starting to talk about, taking, federal government ownership of companies. I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. And I'm like, we got to nip this one. And so I introduced the Invest Act to require the divestiture of federal government out of American companies, and then use any proceeds to pay down the national debt.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I completely agree. We should not be in the ownership of companies. You're right. That is communism. That is not what we do. It is socialism. We have enough of a socialism problem in this country already because of what's happening in the opposition party.
Yeah, I just couldn't idly sit by and watch this happen and not speak up on behalf of freedom and free markets and capitalism. And the whole idea of the state getting more and more involved makes me very nervous. I love President Trump. However, he's not going to be president forever. This has nothing to do with him. It has to do with anybody in executive office, Democrat or Republican, using the leverage of the presidency to maybe, start to impose woke policies on these companies, to start to demand that they do certain things. And I just don't want that influence from the federal government.
I completely agree with you. And I want to come back to capitalism and free markets and so forth. But just super quick, you're also the first senator I've heard in a long time utter the words national debt. It seems to have become just like I don't want to talk about it because it's so crazy out of control. Pushing up on 39 trillion now. Nobody's really talking about what to do about that, other than to say that if we can start clawing back some of the money that was used in fraud, we talk about the waste, fraud, and abuse that DOJ uncovered, and that the new investigation headed up by the vice president and I think Representative Gill, on the House side as well. Anyway, if we can claw back some of that money, maybe we can use some of that to pay down the debt. But your Invest Act is the only thing that I've heard specifically legislatively that could actually work on that debt.
Well, it will. And I've also sponsored a constitutional amendment that requires a balanced budget within 10 years. And so we've got to start moving in that direction. People talk about affordability, Bob. You well know, and so do many of your listeners who understand how the markets work, that if it costs more to issue debt right? If the bond market says, well, you're going to have to pay me a greater yield if you want me to buy your bonds to finance your debt. You know what that does? That drives up the interest rates that people pay to buy cars, houses, all of those kinds of things. And it makes life less affordable. The national debt is driving up the cost of borrowing money in this country, and it will only get worse. And so if you really want to make things more affordable to people, drive down the national debt, and you'll allow them to have more, it'll allow them to finance things a lot better, like their home, and which is, as we know, part of the American dream.
Yeah, that is sound advice, and that is something we have to work on. And I'm glad to know you're doing it, Senator. So just to the bigger picture then of capitalism, free markets versus communism and socialism and so forth. The DSA laid out their blueprint, and they're all in on, again, government control, centralized government, no private property, and so forth. And they're winning. Now, there was some slight setback for them yesterday, I guess, in a primary in Arizona. A DSA candidate lost in the primary fight, but they won so many in New York. They just won last week in Colorado. They've got the governor in Washington. The governor of Washington. Seattle Mayor Wilson. Beg your pardon. And then you've got the Los Angeles mayoral candidate in the runoff with Karen Bass is another socialist. And then, of course, Mamdani. My point being,
and Washington, D.C.
Oh, thank you. Forgot about DC as well. So we're literally going from coast to coast and at plenty of points in between in which DSA candidates are winning. And so I asked the congressman the same question I ask you. If they take over the Democrat Party and the Democrat Party wins the midterms and takes over the country and the legislature, are we on our way to slipping into an actual socialist country, Senator?
We're on our way. Yeah. If that happens, I mean, if you let the Democrats used to not use the word socialism. Now they proudly use the word socialism to describe their agenda. And think about this. The capital of capitalism, New York City, is run by a socialist. The capital of the freest country in the world, Washington, D.C., is run by a socialist. That isn't freedom. That isn't free markets. That's socialism. And that's who the people who live in these places are electing. And it's taking root, firm root inside the Democratic Party. The new nominee in Maine is the same way. Okay, that's going to replace Susan Collins, or they're going to challenge Susan Collins. He's just like Graham Plattner. Up to the north, El Sayed in Michigan. He's a socialist. He's got a good chance of winning that primary. So this isn't like just in the pockets of New York, LA, Washington, D.C. It's spreading throughout the country. There are socialists who are winning. And you want to know something? There are people who are that are welcoming that in the Democratic Party, because they look forward to forming their giant cabal of socialism when they can all come from all around the country and get to Washington, D.C., take the majority is what they're trying to do, and then implement their agenda.
That's the alarm that a lot of us are trying to sound, Senator. And I'm glad to get you on the record talking about this, because I don't think enough people understand what socialism will do to this country. Again, they're winning all over the place, as you just pointed out. And if they take the majority, and then that majority of the legislature is governed by socialist principles, and it is that will be their agenda. They laid it out. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, laid out their platform on abolishing the Senate, taking the entire Senate away, abolishing prisons, abolishing police, so many different things. And I'm not saying all of that happens immediately if they win, but if the Democrat Party has been basically overrun now by socialists, it moves in that direction, and they are in charge of the legislature. There is no way we survive that, because they're gonna nuke the filibuster that we refuse to nuke, and they're going to use it to make sure that we never regain power again. I don't think that's hyperbole. I don't think that's exaggeration. I think the threat is
Bob,
right?
That you don't have to make it up. That's what they say. That's their agenda. They talked about taking over the Supreme Court. They've talked about basically reconstructing the institutions of government. This is not your hyperbole. This is their agenda. It's their platform to do this. So it's hiding in plain sight. They're telling all of us this is what they want to do. The question is, will we wake up and try to stop it?
Well, that's exactly the question. And what is your confidence level that we stop this? Because the midterms are going to determine everything. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and I don't want to repeat it again. What happens if the last 2 years of President Trump's term are run by a leftist, socialist, almost communist majority in the United States Congress? So, what is your confidence level right now? 3 months ish out, 3.5 months ish out from the midterm.
I am optimistic, but by no means certain that we will have a lot of success in defeating, in defeating Democrats around the country. And I'm in my official office, so I can't talk a lot about elections, but I'm cautiously optimistic, but I keep looking at these poll numbers and seeing that among Democrats, the enthusiasm is 20 points higher to vote in this election than it is among Republicans. And if it's that way on election day, where Republicans don't turn out and Democrats do, then we will not be able to defeat the socialist agenda.
Yeah, and I know you can't talk about elections, specifically your election, but I just confidence in the midterms is extremely important. We need to rally voters, Senator, and you don't have to say that. I will. We need to rally voters for you, for Governor nominee Ramaswamy, and so many others. It's extraordinarily important here in the state of Ohio. I'll get back to something you can talk about now, and this is kind of election related only because your opponents are running campaign ads against you on data centers. So I want to ask you specifically about data centers and the expansion, the proliferation thereof in the state of Ohio. I hosted on this program a little over a week ago a panel of 7 conservatives debating, half of them supporting data centers, knowing we have to win the AI race with China, and the other half saying we can't have these data centers near American communities or Ohio communities, neighborhoods. We don't want it on our farmland either. So it's divided the conservatives, I think, right down the middle. I need to know where you are. I know you are pushing and promoting now something to make them pay their own way. But what about just the expansion of them in Ohio's communities?
Look, it's a local control issue. You don't want the federal government making rules about where data centers are, where they're not. What I would encourage them to do, look, there are 23 power plants that were closed by the, Biden Sherrod Brown policies. Put them on the vacated power plant sites, right? So we have all of the infrastructure there. They've already signed a memorandum of understanding promising that they would build their own energy. Put them on abandoned industrial sites so that we're reusing them. You get more local tax dollars for the communities that had lost all those tax dollars to help reduce their property tax burdens. So you need the electric infrastructure. You need a vacant site. Put them on those sites. That's what I would do with them if I were in charge of telling them where they had to go. But however, this is a local control issue. Just like wind, just like solar. If you don't want a data center, then your local township trustees, county commissioners, and city council members can zone them out. You just don't need them. But some people want them. Some people have said that they want them because of all the jobs that they've created. There's been tens of thousands of construction jobs that they've created. That they get money for their local schools, and in some poor rural areas they don't have a tax base. You get one of these facilities there, and it generates a lot of revenue. But it's a local issue. Don't burden the tax or the ratepayers with them drawing electricity off the grid. The legislation I have would support President Trump's memorandum of understanding, require them to build their own power. That to me is the way you split the difference between the advocates and the pessimists about this issue.
Yeah, and I like the idea. When I talked to Vivek Ramaswamy 3 weeks ago, he said the same thing you said, largely about using brownfields, using abandoned sites, and whether they be energy sites or whatever the case might be. I just don't know if there are enough of them, because while I'm not totally fluent on it, they're talking about building hundreds of these new data centers to be able to meet the AI needs that we have, not just in Ohio, but around the country, thousands.
Well,
I don't know.
but Bob, I also want to interject something. It's not
Please.
just AI. It's not just AI. This conversation we're having requires the use of a data center. Okay. When you order something on your phone, when you scroll on your social media, when you look at a streaming video, that goes through a data center. It's like if we didn't have this digital world, we wouldn't need them. So we are the cause of the demand, all of us who are using these different tools. And so we have to understand why they exist, what their role is. But yes, we also can't cede this ground to China. Why? Okay? Because AI in the economy and in national defense is equivalent, I think, to the arms race we had with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Whoever wins it will be the dominant nation from an economic and national security point of view. And if we fail to win, we do it at our own peril.
That's the side that said we need to allow the expansion of these. Exactly right. We can't not afford to lose and cede that ground to the Chinese or any other adversary, worldwide, globally. So I agree with you 100% on the need for it. But again, it's finding out, and you're also correct about local control. To the extent that people have the right or have the ability to influence their county commissioners, their city councils, their, whatever organizations they are, if you don't want them near you, you're going to have to say that. But the idea of expanding them, I do think is necessary. But and I don't know if you have an opinion on the privacy aspect of it too. Some of the, what you said about our conversation being stored in data centers and respond 100% right.
Process,
a lot of people are worried that, that the more data they collect on us and the more that they store, the less, privacy we actually have. Is that a concern for you, Senator?
Yes, I've really leaned in hard on that as it relates to kids and how chatbots, social media, I want to make sure that kids are protected in the digital world in the same way that we do it in the physical world, and understand if something's free, they're collecting data on you. If you pay for it, it's less likely that they'll collect data on you. So particularly on the terms that you have. So and so, but we just have to realize, we're in this world in which we've created the demand. We, the people, have created the demand for these data centers because we use all of these digital products that it processes. And if we don't want them, then don't use them. I mean, you can go back to the bunny ear antenna on your TV. You don't need a data center. But if you're connected to a wire, you're using the data center. So understand, when we look in the mirror, we are the problem.
Very well said. It is a necessity in the modern world, and we do have to adjust to that, and that means we have to store that. Senator, I know you're on a hard clock to get out of here, so thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your great work and your leadership on the INVEST Act as well. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.
There's Senator Jon Husted joining us, and wow, that's a lot of ground to cover there. And he's right. If you watched, I also apologize, by the way, my phone has got a rubber case on it, and it's sliding across my desk and making sounds that might sound like something that it's not. I just realized that when I was sliding it across my desk, that's right by my microphone. And goodness gracious, I hope they don't think that I'm being Chuck Schumer live on the air. And if you know, you know about what happened with Chuck Schumer. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. There it is again. Anyway, the point that Senator Husted was just making about the data centers, if you watched the special, the 2-hour conversation that we had with conservatives in support of data center expansion and those who are opposed to it for reasons of privacy, reasons of resources, the space, the inconvenience and the noise pollution and so forth in your neighborhoods, the taking away of some farmland for these things, which of course is something that is vital to America, our farmland. All of these objections and all of these, comments and support. We had that big debate. I think we have to acknowledge that the need for data centers is never going to go away. The senator is right there. He just looked at me and said, look, The conversation we're having right now, which is being pushed out on the internet, cannot happen without these data centers. He's right. You can't order something on your phone from Amazon without the data centers. You can't watch this podcast or live stream if you're watching it live without these things. It's reality, not just AI, just the connectivity of the new modern digital world. Accept the fact that they are necessary. Then let's figure out where to put them and how to minimize the reduction in our resources that comes with it. Talking about the water concerns that everybody is talking about for cooling, the chips and so forth. He's right. We have to accept the reality that in the digital age, in this age, the data centers are necessary, and we cannot cede authority and advancement and what's the word I'm looking for? We cannot just cede this ground to the Chinese. We have to be in front of them, and that's going to take a commitment on our part to build these things and to put them wherever is least obstructive to us, least intrusive to us, least invasive when it comes to our resources. But they've got to happen, and I think a lot of people are committed to making sure that it is just done in the most responsible way possible. So that's the way I'm going to have to leave that. All right. But I was also very glad to hear in both of the conversations that I had with Jordan and Husted this morning, their commitment to stopping socialism. And I'm going to tell you something that you already know. They can't stop it. They can't. Only we can. Bottom line is, we, the voters, are the ones that are going to have to stop the Democrats from taking the majority. If they take the majority in the Congress and the socialists, the DSA, take the majority of the Democrat Party, it follows, right? Then the Democratic Socialists have the majority of the country. There are too many Republicans who are, in the state of Ohio right now at least, that are apathetic about the midterms. I keep seeing articles and posts and video commentary with people saying Vivek Ramaswamy is just not likable. There's a likability problem. He's too smooth. He's too polished. He's too rich. People can't relate. Not to mention the fact that he's of a different ethnicity than a lot of folks. He's from India. He's from America, but he is of Indian heritage and ethnicity. Some people don't like that. They're apathetic. I hear a lot of people saying they're also not necessarily super motivated and moved by getting out there to vote for Senator Husted. Not that they like Sherrod Brown, but I haven't seen much from Husted since he's been in the Senate. I remember him as lieutenant governor with the wine. Not a big fan. I am here to tell you to knock that off in both of those cases, because those are the two biggest names at the top of the ticket. That Senate race and our governor's race are the biggest ones. That's not to say that the other statewide races don't matter. We have to win Secretary of State. We have to win the treasurer. We have to win the attorney general's race. We got to win them all. But the Senate seat could be the difference between the majority and the minority. If that goes from red to blue and Sherrod Brown is back in, it's all over. It's all over. If we don't win and hold our seats and flip a few blue to red, like Marcy Kaptur's seat or Amelia Sykes' seat, it's all over. If we let Amy Acton, who shut down the state, actually get control of the state, it's all over. There's your motivation. I don't want to hear about the reasons why you're not super excited about Vivek. I don't want to hear any reason why you're not ready to burst through the door to vote for Husted. How can you not be given the stakes? So to my fellow Ohio Republicans, take the stick out of your butt and start embracing reality. Quit being all, high and mighty. It's like, well, they're not Trump. Trump isn't on the ballot. I'm not excited by anybody else. Get excited. You know what? One of the biggest motivators and tools for what's the word? Not excitement, but in intensity and energy. You know what really brings that? Fear. When do you have more energy than when you have the adrenaline pumping through your body because you're afraid? Well, guess what? Get afraid. Be afraid of a Democrat-run Ohio. Be afraid of a Democrat majority Congress, because socialism is coming if that Congress happens. Be afraid. And if that doesn't give you the energy and the motivation to get out there and volunteer and knock on doors or do whatever you've got to do to say, let's go vote for Jon Husted. Let's go vote for Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's go vote for Derek Merrin. Let's go and vote for Kerry Coleman. Let's go and vote for all of these races that are going to decide capitalism versus socialism and communism. Get out there and do what needs to be done, and quit being all, like I said, you high and mighty and I'm going to save all of my attention for the 28th, for the presidential election, like I did in 24. If you don't come with the same passion and and I say you, I'm talking to me too. If we don't come with the same passion, the same vigor, and the same energy as we did in 2024, and I'll always go back to reminding you of what Charlie Kirk looked like when the final votes came in, or not the final votes, but when the final state was called to push President Trump over 270 in the Electoral College. As he was sitting there holding a microphone, I think talking to supporters at TPUSA or whatever it was. And then when the number came in, he just kind of put it down and he just dropped his head into his hands and just the deep sigh of, thank God, we just saved the republic. That was what you read in his face and heard in his sigh. That's how much energy he and we had put into 2024. If we have any less than that in 3.5 months in 2026, we'll lose. And if we lose, it's all over. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks, everybody. As always, a reminder, please hit the thumbs up. Please hit the notification button. Please share the channel with everybody and share that message about the need that we have to get out there and find that energy, just like we had in 2024. At the end of election night in November, I want us all to be hanging our heads and breathing that sigh of, oh my God, we just saved the republic, because it has to happen again. Be well, be safe, stay free. See you tomorrow.